If you're 20, this could change your life forever. My name is Margaret, and I'm 70 years old. If I could go back in time and speak to my 20-year-old self for just 1 minute, I wouldn't tell her how to make more money. I wouldn't tell her which career to choose or where to invest. I would tell her one simple truth that could have saved me from 50 years of regret. If you're 20 today, or even younger, please stay with me for a few minutes. The lesson I'm about to share took me an entire lifetime to understand. I only hope you learn it much sooner than I did. When I was 20, I believed I had everything figured out. I thought success was the answer to every problem. I believed that if I worked harder than everyone else, happiness would eventually find me. I promised myself that once I had enough money, a beautiful home, and a successful career, life would finally feel complete. Looking back now, I realize I was chasing an illusion. I grew up in a loving family that never had much money, but we always had time for one another. My parents laughed often. We ate dinner together every night. On weekends, we sat on the front porch and talked for hours. Back then, I couldn't wait to leave that small town because I believed a bigger life was waiting somewhere else. The day I moved away, my mother hugged me tightly and whispered, "Don't be in such a hurry to grow up. Life moves faster than you think." I smiled, kissed her goodbye, and thought she was simply being emotional. I had no idea those words would stay with me for the next 50 years. The city was exciting. Everything moved faster. Opportunities were everywhere, and I loved the feeling of building a future for myself. I worked long hours, accepted every challenge, and said yes to every opportunity. While my friends traveled, celebrated birthdays, and made unforgettable memories, I kept saying the same thing: "I'll have time later." Those 4 words quietly became the biggest mistake of my life. The years passed faster than I ever imagined. Before I knew it, I was 30 years old. My career was growing exactly the way I had dreamed. I had a respected job, a steady income, and people often congratulated me on my success. Everyone said I was building an incredible future. From the outside, my life looked perfect. But behind every achievement was a sacrifice no one could see. I missed family birthdays because I was working late. I skipped holidays because an important meeting couldn't wait. Friends stopped inviting me on trips because they already knew my answer. "I'm too busy. I'll come next time." There will always be another chance. Those words became a habit. One evening, my father called me while I was finishing an important project. I looked at my phone, sighed, and pressed decline. I sent him a quick message instead: "I'll call you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. The next morning, my mother called with tears in her voice. My father had suffered a heart attack during the night. I rushed to the hospital as fast as I could, praying I wasn't too late. When I walked into his room, he smiled weakly and reached for my hand. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. Those 4 words broke something inside me. Even after I had ignored his call, he was just happy to see me. A few days later, he recovered, and I thanked God for giving me another chance. But instead of changing my life, I went right back to my old routine. More work, more deadlines, more excuses. I convinced myself I was doing it all for my family, even though I barely spent time with them. Years continued to disappear. One birthday, I stood in front of the mirror and realized I was 45. I couldn't understand where the time had gone. The dreams I kept postponing were still waiting. The vacation I promised myself, still waiting. The quality time with my parents, still waiting. The peaceful life I imagined, still waiting. That's when a frightening thought crossed my mind. What if I've been so busy building a life that I forgot to actually live it? I tried to ignore the question, but life was about to force me to answer it. Life has a way of stopping you when you refuse to slow down on your own. A few months after my 45th birthday, my husband David began feeling unusually tired. At first, we blamed stress. Then, we blamed age. We laughed it off and promised each other that after this busy season, we'd finally take the vacation we'd been postponing for years. But that vacation never happened. Doctor appointments became part of our weekly routine. One test led to another. Every visit ended with more questions than answers. Then one quiet afternoon, we sat across from a doctor whose face told us everything before he even spoke. In that moment, the promotions, the overtime, the money, and the endless chase for success suddenly meant nothing. The only thing I wanted was more time. Time to laugh with my husband. Time to hold his high